have a lot of stuff on Katie you guys would probably want to hear if you ever actually talk to me, because I'm not a bad guy like people think I am, but I mean, I don't expect you to, but that's a good subject to start on, because Katie is she actually tried to pull something crazy with me on you, Molly, which I eventually will tell people about, but I was going to do a video on it after all this calmed down, but sorry guys.
Okay, so what happened is YouTube, of course, had this story of Marvon and Dre McRae, and they were looking for YouTubers that would take it, and they were trying to find a lot bigger channels, the likes of Bailey Sarian, and they had their hopes up real high, and they were being ignored for quite a long time. So two separate people decided to reach out to me within hours. And I looked at it for a couple of hours. And I knew Justin would be up. And at about 5:30 in the morning, I talked to him for about a half an hour, and I told him what I stumbled upon. So me and him went into this together. And then we found out that this girl without a crystal ball, which I had heard her name, never saw any of her videos, wanted to talk to us about this. About 150 people told us not to go on, and we, of course, didn't listen. And she decided to call Dre basically a murderer. It didn't sit well with me. And there was something about her vibe where she said, send all of your followers to view this on my channel. My source only wants it viewed.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
heard
like
that.
Yeah. And so I
saw that you were mad about that. So that I know I'm glad you didn't.
I think anyone would be. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So anyway, I told my crowd that something wasn't feeling good, and I didn't like that feeling. So I was up. I was trying to go to bed, and something was keeping me up. So I went over to the kitchen. I said, "Oh shit, I can't confirm." And guess what? The bitch gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Oh yeah.
And what do you know?
Well, yeah, okay. Let me tell you what happened when I first met her real quick. So, like, I go in and I'm talking to Katie, and she joins my server, and it was over this other issue I won't bring up. So she tells me about that. She scolds me. Like, she literally, like, treated me like I was her child and scolded me, and she started to cry. So we got past that. It took about 20 minutes. And then she told me how she gets her, you got to hear this before we talk about anything else. She told me how she gets her sources. Okay. And I haven't done a video on this yet, and I always meant to. So she told me that she would get a hold of maids for famous people, like straight up, like 100%. She said this in front of other people, so she can't say I'm lying. And I criticized her for it. So she would get a hold of maids and people that cleaned other people's houses or had some contact with a rich person, or, you know, like Lindsay. I'm not saying she did this to Lindsay Chrisley, but it's like an example, right? And then she would use talking to them to build like a web. And this is literally out of her mouth. And then she would connect to the people they talked about as a friend, kind of like not as the YouTuber, like as a big YouTuber, but like, hey, what's going on with this? And that's how she built connections into bigger YouTubers and bigger people's communities. And I always thought that was really deceptive, and never liked that either, because it's like almost invasion of privacy. But yeah, pretty crazy stuff. It sounds a little bit like that whole source thing you just mentioned is why I brought that up. So
like a trickle down.